Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the FitBod Blueprint. So, as always, Coach Phil here, and today I am being joined by not just a former client, but also a very dear friend, one of my best friends in this world, Chris Stanton. And I'm gonna also build a little bit more here, Dr. Chris Stanton. How you doing today, brother?
Thank you, doctor. I like that. I can tell you right now, not too many people actually use that on me, but yes, it is. It's great to be here. Hey, Phil, thanks a lot for asking me to be on.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm super excited to have you here. Chris has a very incredible story. Grew up as a kid, struggled with his weight, eventually got into keto, which, hey, I have been there as well. I think anybody who has been on a fitness journey for more than like a year, or especially if they've got a prolonged history of like trying different things, we all know just how hard that can be. Chris had quite the impressive stretch of it though. But then he found there was another layer to it. There was another system that could be put in. And that was the time that we started working together on his fitness journey. And from keto to well over 400 grams of carbs, I think, did we get to 500 at one point?
Yes, yes.
So over 500 grams of carbs a day at one point. Got on the bodybuilding stage as a first time competitor, absolutely crushed it. And now what he's doing is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and that is helping people with their finances. So not just chasing the aesthetics, but he's making sure that he's learned his fitness system. He's found ways that kind of translates, or I should say parallels, into having a good financial house in order, the education that he's gotten along the way, and he's helping people to achieve their goals as well. So, Chris, anything you want to add on before we kind of dive into your journey?
No, it's a good summary of it. I'm ready to dive right in.
All right. Well, I think about the only other thing that I'll add in is, Chris, you are probably the only person I've met who matches my level of Star Wars and Dragon Ball Z fandom.
Dragon Ball Z. I mean, there are us unicorns out there for sure, but Star Wars is at another level. I wouldn't say that I am a grandmaster aficionado. And the reason why I wouldn't put myself in that category is because I'm not as attentive to the new trilogies as compared to the old and even the prequels. I would say the grandmaster aficionados would be even more intense on the newer trilogies as well. I'm not at that same level. I still enjoy them. I still watch them every once in a while. I just have my flaws. I'm not as hooked onto them as the original, at least the original trilogy for sure. The prequels are just as good, but the newer ones, although good, were not to the same level as the other six. But yeah, I definitely enjoy myself a good Star Wars discussion and even a DBZ every once in a while for sure.
All right, man. So let's go ahead and dive in. And I want to start with, kind of take us back, like whenever you were growing up, what were your experiences like with food, with weight, with body image? How was all that for you as a child?
Yeah, man. So I did struggle young with weight and body image for sure. I think the time that it actually hit was two occasions. I can remember in eighth grade when number one, I had a gym teacher and we were outside playing basketball in the schoolyard, and she calls me over after class and says, "Chris, I happened to notice that when the wind blew against your shirt and up against your body, I noticed that you are quite heavy. You might want to take a look at that." So that was, I guess a realization from a teacher, right? And then from there, you go and you step on a scale because now it's like, okay, I have someone overtly looking at my body, and it's an adult other than my parents, which they never really mentioned much. I step on a scale, and the scale reads, what was it, 248, 249. So, 250 is what I usually round it up to. So eighth grade, I look down, can't see my toes, and I see a number on the scale, and I'm topping out at 250. Now, currently I'm 6'2", but at the time I was not as tall. I was one of the taller kids, so it didn't necessarily show as bad, but I still had the spare tire, quite large, large legs, definitely the big puffy face that goes along with that when you're, especially when you're young, right? You tend to have a
You have
nice
the
little round
baby,
face. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
you have the
yeah,
baby face still, and then you add weight onto it, and you just get the full cheeks.
exactly. And so that's basically when I first became uber aware. Not to say that I didn't know that I was heavy compared to all the other kids growing up, but that's when it really started hitting home. It's funny because then afterwards I go to my father and I'm just, years later, this is years later, I go to my dad and I'm like, why didn't you ever just like stop me? Like you saw what was happening. I mean, it wasn't like you didn't see it. My clothes, I'm having to purchase pants or jeans that have a 48 waist size on it or 50 waist size on it just for it to be comfortable. I mean, you obviously saw this. Why didn't you just like stop me? And the basic, my dad being a physician, even that made it even worse. He was a doctor, and he said to me, he goes, Chris, you were happy when you ate. Like, really? That's it? I'm happy when I eat. Yeah, everyone's happy
That's
when they eat.
that's one thing. Whenever like, okay, they're a baby or a toddler, it's like, okay, hey, yeah, baby's happy, just munching away on like a strawberry, cool. But it's like, hey, mom, dad, maybe whenever the strawberry turned into like chips and snack cakes and stuff like that, like maybe kind of step in, like,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is something that and it wasn't like I wasn't physical as a kid. I played basketball, I played baseball, I played tennis. I was a bowler my entire life. So it wasn't like I was completely inactive. So sports wasn't necessarily, movement wasn't my thing. I mean, non-movement wasn't my thing. I would always be moving. I mean, but the problem was the amount of calories that I was consuming compared to the amount of physical activity, right? And it wouldn't be uncommon for after a basketball game, for example, I definitely remember this being a thing during basketball season because we wound up winning the championship. And during the season, we would go out to eat at a diner after a game. You have an early morning game on a Saturday, right? Catholic school, you go to a game on Saturday morning, and we would win. Common occurrence, great. So what do? Celebrate. We go out to a diner, our favorite diner, right in town, and I would get at the double cheeseburger platter with fries with a side order of onion rings. And I
wow.
would eat the entire thing. Like I would eat the entire meal. Now
Tell
it
me you
start
also did like milkshake or pie after too.
no, you see, like that's the only thing I didn't do, right? I didn't do like you would say like a milkshake. I wasn't big on milkshakes. I really wasn't, but I definitely had a soda. Okay. So there's the liquid calories, there's the fat from the burgers, there's the fat from the fried food, right? So all of this stuff I would eat, and I wouldn't blink an eye. It wouldn't be like I would be overly stuffed. I'm hungry because I just played a game and whatnot, but it was easy to go down. And that was just one of the things. And then, high school translated into maybe video games, a little bit more with the video games and, 3 hour sessions down in my buddy's basement playing Super Smash Brothers or GoldenEye on N64 or NFL Blitz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Right.
take me
Oh,
down
man.
memory lane. This is why we're such good friends, is because like everything you're describing except for the aversion to milkshakes is literally like paralleling my own childhood. Like the first time I was ever made aware of my weight was right around like seventh grade. And it was my annual physical. And the doctor just looks at me and hands me a pamphlet basically. And it's like, here's a 600 calorie diet. Here's a 800 calorie diet. Here's 1,000 calorie diet. And she just hands it to me, looks at my mom and goes, he needs to lose weight. He's too fat, and just walks out of the room.
Yeah.
I played sports. I played offensive line. I did boxing. I did martial arts. Like I was active. Similarly, growing up in Florida, like actual diners aren't really a real thing, but we have America's Diner and that's Steak and Shake. So once I started driving or I had friends that were driving, it was, hey, let's go to Steak and Shake. Guess what? Double cheeseburger with bacon, order of fries, milkshake, like 4 or 5 days a week. That was like after practice what my go-to was. And whenever that was done, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2, Super Smash, Golden Eye, what was the Star Wars
Was it Battlefront?
Battlefront PlayStation 2, the Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron. Right?
Rogue Squadron. That was my other one, man.
Yeah, yeah. So like that's what it was also. And during those 3 hour sessions, we would order Pizza Hut, and we'd each have like a pie of our own. Like this was the insanity, right? This was just like the total, and no one's watching. And it's funny that you mentioned what happened with your physician, because again, my father was a doctor, and I never, if I even went, I never went to annual checkups or anything like that, physicals. My dad always did it, and he never actually checked me or anything. He just wrote, he's like, oh, no, he's all good. He wrote it on the paper, and that was it. So I didn't actually have like an annual physical, like a true one, until I would say after college. My father passed away in 2014. So I think maybe my very first one was maybe 2015, 2016, when I actually had to go to a physician to get a prescription for something, because I never had to. I always went to dad, and dad, if I was sick and I needed an antibiotic, he would do it. So the knowledge base of nutrition for a physician is like zilch. And I only can assume that that's exactly what my father would have done, because there is no nutrition education in traditional medicine. There's a whole subset of that. They don't know anything. They learn about calories, but even when you're in a hospital, they're not looking at a meal plan or anything. They're not looking at that. They're looking at TPN stuff. So it's just putting liquid nutrition through IVs and whatnot. And you consult the nutritionist on staff to come in and take a look. So your experience there with your physician is not uncommon, unfortunately. So, and I experienced pretty much the same thing.
So let me ask, what was like the catalyst for you to start like having that turning point? What was your like, oh, I really care about this now moment? And what did you start doing like once you finally had that cathartic experience of I need to make some changes in my life? Like what was the first thing you did?
Right. So it probably was going into high school and sports in high school, because sports in high school is completely different than elementary. You're expected to perform at higher levels in order to play. Like, little league and stuff, you could be good, and but little league has the rules, like everyone's got to play a certain amount of innings, right? So no matter what, you're going to play some position at one point, regardless of whether you're good or not, and whether you perform well or not. It wasn't until, I had to try out for the baseball team, basically. I had stopped playing basketball at that point, didn't really enjoy it that much. It was really hard on my knees also. And I have Osgood-Schlatter's, and it was just a very, very hard on my knees. So I gave up basketball. Baseball was much more my speed anyway. I was a pitcher and first baseman traditionally. And I fell into those roles. And in order to be a decent pitcher, you got to have strong legs. And running is something that is done, sprinting and running or jogging is something that's done on the baseball field a lot for pitchers. And when I couldn't even really do a mile run just to warm up, that's when it was like, my goodness, this is going to be a disaster. So that's when I hooked up with a buddy who was about a year or two older, and this guy just had I remember he had massive arms in like sophomore year of high school. And I'm just like, what is going on here? And he's like, listen, come with me to the gym. And I asked my father, and he's like, no, I think that's a really great idea, but you got to go. You got to make sure you go because I'm not just going to pay X amount of dollars, whatever it was a month to go because I didn't have a job at the time. So he's like, yeah, go with him. So that's what we did. We joined a gym. And I didn't do the school gym because it would be too long of a day at school, and I had to take 2 city buses and a train or something sometimes to get to school back and forth. So it could have been really, really late. So I wound up just going to a local gym not too far from the house where I could walk if need be. And that's when the bug hit for lifting was freshman, sophomore year of high school. There was a lot of misinformation out there, even with lifting at the time because that's me. I'm a researcher. I would do a lot of research, and I didn't necessarily push as hard or work out as much or as optimal at that time, just based upon the information that was out there for a high school kid. And a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, which we didn't have one at the school. It just wasn't there. So I didn't really have that much guidance. But yeah, that's when the bug hit, was around freshman, sophomore year, maybe that summer going to sophomore year of high school.
Yeah. That's a pretty common one for us big kids. That was a lot of my motivation was, okay, I at some point would like to be able to, I don't know, get a date. But come on, let's have
Let's be honest.
for myself. Like, hey, if I'm the
Yeah.
biggest kid in school, like I'm probably not exactly getting a whole lot of numbers. So no, man, you hit
And I went to an old boys school. So whenever we went, my high school was an old boy. I was actually the last graduating old boys school of Archbishop Malloy High School in New York City. Whenever we had dances, you had to invite the girls, right? Mm-hmm. So if you didn't, they opened it up to even old girl schools also. So like you had the opportunity for girls that went to all girl high schools to come to your dances, but you had to invite. And I remember this one guy, he came in with like the guy was deaf. He was 100% deaf. And I don't know if that was his calling card or whatnot, because that guy had 6 or 7 chicks with him every time there was a high school dance. Like the guy he wasn't bad looking either. He was a decent looking guy. It was nothing tremendous, but man, he had 6 or 7 girls with him every single dance. It was it was crazy. And I'm like, how is this guy doing this? He can't even hear them. What's going on?
Hey, you know what? Power to him, man.
Man, it was great. I was like, I'm in the corner, like taking notes. Like, what is this guy doing? You know, I would go to the dances just to take notes and research what's going on.
Right, like you're attending that like it's a class. Like, hang on, he's doing this. Yeah. All right, what's the move he's making with the left hand? Yeah. So, all right. So, when did you get started down the keto path?
Keto came much, much later on. So, up until now, like this is past college, I was always lifting. I did lifting as a regular thing. So it was part of my routine. I even did CrossFit for a good number of years, which got me into pretty decent shape. So I had lost and shed a decent amount of weight at this point. Now I'm like, I've grown into my frame. I'm 6'2". I'm no longer 250 pounds, but I'm hovering anywhere between 200 to 215, maybe 220 at certain points. So I'm in that range, right? And, people say it fits your frame. Fair enough. Keto didn't happen until I am married, and now I've got my first baby, my first kid, Riley.
Man.
And what had happened was the decision was made. I had to be home a little bit more, right? Because it's a brand new baby. You don't know what's going to happen. And I would go to the gym after work. And now I can't go to the gym after work because I got to be home and make sure the wife is okay. Maybe give her a break because she's been with the kid the whole time, which was a big thing, especially with my first one, because Riley was colic and she was 6 months colic. We would sleep on the couch, with her all night. It was crazy. So there wasn't any time really to go to the gym, right? And that's when I started packing on the weight. I started packing on the weight again. And it was funny because I remember having this conversation with my wife, and I said, maybe I'll kind of embrace this dad bod thing, because that was a big thing back, at that around that time was like, oh, a dad bod is like all the craze now. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'll embrace this thing. Like I won't really care too much. But then I got to the scale at like, 220, 225, and I just said, nope, can't do it. Can't, clothes aren't fitting right anymore. I can't do this. This is not happening. So I needed a way to lose weight, keep weight under control relatively quickly, relatively not that much of an effort, although it became much of an effort without going to the gym. And keto was really hitting big. It was hitting a lot of markers. It was kind of in your face. You go down the rabbit hole of YouTube and all that stuff, and everyone's on it, doing this, doing that. I've read books. I went out and bought some material on it. So, like, again, I'm a research type of guy. I'm gonna look at a lot of things before I decide to go in. But once I decide to go in, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do this thing to the T. And I mean, I went deep into it, so much so as I was counting my ketones, right? I was checking my levels. I was doing the salt and the minerals and making sure that I had all the micronutrients components all taken care of to try to limit some of the side effects, the nasty side effects that come along with keto.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. Isn't your Wi-Fi still something about keto?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think my password is still somewhere in there with has a reference to it for sure.
I thought,
That's how far back it goes. Yeah, for sure.
right.
Like we went so because here's the thing. Once I got involved, and the thing about keto is that you'll get results relatively quick. Like if you stick with it and you go all in, and you're really relatively strict with yourself, within a month you'll start seeing some drastic results. Now, nowadays we know what that is. What a lot of the first initial weight loss really is. It's nothing but water.
Right. You're
But if you
losing
stick
glycogen from your muscles and all
right,
the water's just come out. So yeah,
right,
it's quick water weight, and there's something to be said about it for the right person for sure.
right. So it does that, and you see results relatively fast, and that's what kind of keeps you motivated because by nature we're more of a society that likes instant gratification, right? So
Yes.
that draws your attention. So then once I started getting results, now I got a wife who's seeing her husband who's starting to lose all this weight and go down in size and literally just following this thing. And I happen to be a relatively knowledgeable individual. I was showing her books and showing her certain case studies that are online and all this other stuff. And she got along, she went on that bandwagon with me, and then she lost some weight. So we did that whole lifestyle for 3 years. 3 years. Yeah.
And I want people to understand just how significant that truly is, because as a health and fitness coach, I hear people all the time that, oh yeah, I go keto for 2 or 3 months every year just to kind of cut the weight. I'm going to get trimmed for summer. And it's the same thing every time. Like, oh, I'm going to stick with it after my vacation this year, because usually people are motivated by a vacation or some big special event, someone's wedding, little tiny soapbox. If your motivation for starting a fitness journey is someone else's wedding, check your damn ego at the door, because nobody's looking at you. Nobody's going back and looking at pictures going, oh, how did so-and-so look at this person's wedding? Get your ego in check. But what happens time and time again, people get motivated by an event. They take an extreme, which for those who don't know, ketogenic dieting, traditionally, it's going to be between like 20 to 50 grams of carbs a day, depending on the individual. There's the more extreme version of it, which is no carb, which is the carnivore approach. But
Which
it's
I
hard.
also did.
And it's hard. It is very hard to be that low on your carbs and be able to sustain it. That's the key, because usually people go on that vacation or they go to the wedding or whatever, and they remember, holy shit, carbs are amazing. I love French fries. I like bread. I like pasta. Man, I didn't remember that rice tasted so good. Fruit, holy smokes, man, bananas are just bomb. Like, it's all foods that whenever carbs are regular in your normal diet, you're like, yeah, whatever, it's a banana. I have it every day. But whenever that banana is 25 carbs and you have a daily allotment of 30, 40, 50 grams of carbs, it's at least half of your carbs, if not more.
If not the
That's
whole day's worth. Yeah.
right. Like, that's what makes it so hard to sustain. Now, at this point, you and Gren are married. Riley's there. Let's see here. So you were keto for 3 years. So that means also now Cammie's born. So keto with two small kids. What were the struggles that you guys were running into with keto?
To be totally honest, the only struggles would be during special occasions. And the only real struggle was to maintain the idea that we had to keep below a certain thing. So when we went out for dinner, it would be relatively easy. We could have vegetables. Vegetables were a big thing. So we always had vegetables. So in that sense, we're keeping, carbohydrates down low. We're even making sure like we have our micronutrients. Maybe there's a greens drink product that we have in there. Definitely salting the food, which is a really big thing with keto. You wanted to make sure you had enough sodium. The only thing was like when we would go out for like special occasions to someone's house, there always was an option of just meat. Or if, let's say, they had like one of those Costco heroes, or you go to a deli and you get one of those subs that have those really, 6 foot, 3 foot, 6 foot subs. Um, with those, it was actually kind of easy. You just took the bread off and I would just eat the cold cuts. So I would have like, I don't know, 5 slices of these sandwiches, and I would just take all the bread, throw the bread away, and I would just be eating all the cold cuts. And I would have whatever grilled vegetables there were, and I would just have that. That wasn't, after a while, it became easier. But that it was one of those things where even friends of ours, when we would go over to their houses, would ask, "Could you eat this?" And then now I felt kind of guilty because I'm imposing my dietary restrictions onto my friends, which was like, listen, don't worry about me. Whatever you have, I'll figure it out on my own. Don't go out of your way. And someone always had some type of meat being grilled, whether it be chicken, some type of burger, especially at barbecues. It was relatively easy at barbecues, right? I could definitely get something. The only thing that came into mind was maybe some of the sauces, if there were any sauces to be had on any of that stuff. But I didn't really, after a while, didn't really matter as much. And then Corinne fell right along. And then I'll tell you this, at home, it was much more manageable because guess what? We started cooking everything, and everything we cooked was keto friendly. So we would make desserts that were keto friendly. We would make, obviously, dinners and lunches and breakfasts that were all keto friendly. And it became easier. Again, a lot of prep, but again, as long as you've got your dietary restriction in there or whatever it is that you're looking for, it wasn't that bad. In the beginning, it was tough because we had to learn it. But then it became a lifestyle. Again, 3 years, it's a lifestyle point at that. It's a lifestyle modification at that point.
Right. So what was the kind of driving moment though to go, okay, we've been on this keto lifestyle for 3 years. Man, let's find another approach. What was the
Yeah.
driver?
Yeah. So the gym performance was a big issue. So at this point now, I'm now able to go back to the gym, and I'm getting up at 4 a.m, going to the gym earlier in the morning just to get back in time and then go to work and all that stuff. So it was the only time that I could be available, right, to could be available to go to the gym. So I started going to the gym in the morning, and I needed my performance was okay, but when I wanted to go heavier and heavier and progress, I was getting white, and I would always plateau at a certain spot. Now, keto enthusiasts would say, well, just up your fat and you'll be fine. To a certain extent, that may be it because they're saying that you're adding more calories, and calories is what is the main driver. Again, to a certain extent, carbs really are the driving force for immediate performance. Over long periods of time can take in, fat is much better. The body takes fat much better in those type of situations. That's why there is an argument, let's say, to be said about maybe long distance runners taking more of a ketogenic approach. Some evidence for there. I still think it's weak. I still think carbohydrates are better, but
Agreed.
there's some argument there, so to speak. But immediate performance, carbohydrates are the main thing that the body wants, right?
So when you moved from low carb and we started working together, so I'll kind of walk people through what my approach now as your coach was. Hey, Chris is coming in. He's got all these calories from fat. He's got very little calories from carbs. You were on like what, 50 or 60 carbs, I think, whenever.
Oh yeah, I think I was at oh boy, I think I was definitely in the 30 to 50 range for sure.
So what I did was, let's limit body fat gain. Let's give your body time to get used to some carbs. Let's get you to where you can get better performance. So essentially, for those who don't know, there are 9 calories per gram of fat. There are only 4 calories per gram of carb. So essentially, for every gram of fat that we reduced, we could add in 2.25 grams of carbs. So that was what we did. Bring the fats down, bring the carbs up, kept the calories roughly the same. See how you're responding. And I think it was like every week for the first, I think it was like 4 or 5 check-ins that you did, we were able to just take from fats, give the carbs, take from fats, give the carbs, take from fats, give the carbs. So once the carbs were at a more reasonable level, like around 200 grams, what did you notice, like in terms of body composition, energy, strength, mood?
All right. So instantly, performance did better in the gym. That was instant. I could definitely see that I wasn't as exhausted, and I was able to push a little bit harder, maybe get that little extra rep in there, maybe do an extra set. So the performance was definitely measurable and noticeable right away. Another thing that I always like to point this out, almost like a little dig, all play with my wife, was that I remember, again, I said this to you when we first hooked up. I'm definitely going to need some guidance on this because it's a total mind F, right? It's a total different mind shift for the past 3 years. Very, very, I know that this is the right way, but I'm going to get in my own way if I'm not necessarily guided. And that's why we connected, was because I could blow off a lot of this stuff and just kind of go back and forth, and it could really, really disrupt everything. So I'm sitting at the couch and I'm having like maybe a small little bowl of ice cream just to get the carbs in or whatnot as a little treat. And my weight is going down. And so I'm having ice cream just about every night on the couch. And my wife is looking at me and she sees this. I keep saying, yeah, new low today. Another new low today. Oh, wait, aren't you supposed to be gay? I know, it's just crazy. There's another new low today. So, it was just that little jab every once in a while. And so that was a big thing. The performance was one. Then came the scale. I'm upping in calories because once in a while, once we had gotten to that point where
macros were just more balanced.
Yeah, the macros were definitely at a good stable level. Now it's okay. Now let's start adding a little bit more carbohydrates. Let's start adding more calories in. Let's see how that goes. Can you maintain your body weight? Let's start feeding. Let's see where the metabolism is, right? And we were adding, but I was losing. So obviously at that point, it's, the muscles are taking that carbohydrates and it's utilizing it it's becoming super efficient, right? That's basically what it is. Your calories now are super efficient for what you're putting into it, for what what the output is. So that's what, I didn't know this at the time, but that's essentially what was happening, right? And we did that for, I think it was about 3 months, where we finally started getting to a point where, okay, you're at your calories, we found your maintenance, and now we're going to maybe push a little bit. Now let's start gaining a little bit because we want better performance in the gym. We want to start moving in a certain direction before we shift, because eventually the goal was to go on stage. So we wanted to get ourselves to a good, healthy set point, push a little bit beyond it, and then transition.
Right. And that was the other thing that I noticed as we were making that increase in your calories as we started just getting more carbs up was you especially because you were already lean. You were already very lean for somebody who's coming into coaching for the first time. And I remember just seeing the muscle fullness immediately. It was like, boom, storing the glycogen right in the muscle bellies. Your shoulders got bigger, your chest got bigger, your lats got wider, your traps got more dense, your quads were getting bigger. Like I remember seeing the muscles getting bigger, the scale is going down, your abs are getting more defined, like week over week over week. And we start pushing, and this is whenever we get you up to over 500 grams of carbs. So at one point, whenever you were deep in the keto trenches, did you ever see a day where you were leaner and bigger on 500 grams of carbs a day?
No, not at all. So that's what the mind F was, right? That was what I was not necessarily maybe afraid, to be totally honest, because again, I had come from an area of my life where I had struggled with weight and body image and always self-conscious about that stuff.
And growing up in the early 2000s, like all we ever heard was like, oh my God, carbs are bad, carbs are bad, carbs are bad.
Right, white stuff, right? White bread, white rice. And being, Italian and Hispanic, Puerto Rican, you could attest to this. Rice is like part of the diet. Pasta is part of the diet. Like, you're going to eat this stuff. Bread, oh, for God's sakes, bread. You're going to have some bread. Oh, why don't you eat some bread? Why don't you eat this? And then you got your Italian grandmother. Oh, why don't you have some more? Oh, you're not going to eat? What's the matter? It's no good for you? Right? I mean, come on. Like, what are we going to be serious here? You're not going to have any red sauce? You're not going to have any sauce? What about the meatball? You're going to have a sausage here? No. All right. So, it's one of these things that's like, all right, well, yeah, right. So that was one of the biggest things is I'm seeing this, obviously I'm seeing the same changes. And, I will say this, there is something to be said about putting yourself through these type of situations, experimenting, because I learned a lot about what I can and can't tolerate as well. And everyone's genetic is different. And I think with me, foods that I avoided for such a long time, like white bread or, like Wonder Bread or Italian bread or even pasta and white rice, man, whenever I had rice, I made sure it was like, especially growing up before keto, I would only have brown rice. I hate brown rice. It doesn't taste good at all. Like I always need something with it. White rice, on the other hand, my God, that stuff tastes great to me. And when I finally was able to have some rice, and I had jasmine rice all the time at the house. I could eat tons and tons of this. And here's the craziest thing. I learned that my digestion on white rice is like that. I could eat an entire, like a half hour, maybe about an hour later, like my digestion is fine. I'm not bloated. I'm not necessarily hungry, but I'm content. But the biggest thing is bloat. I'm not bloated. I don't have like the feeling of like a cannonball in my stomach.
No pot belly.
Yeah. On the flip side of it, same thing with white potatoes. I can eat a ton of white potatoes and be really good. However, on the flip side, if I have sweet potato, love sweet potato, but if I have too much of it, messes up my digestion. I feel like I have a cannonball in my stomach. I'm bloated and I just can't have as much. I can have a little bit and be fine, but I just can't have on the same levels as white rice or white potatoes. And all of this you learn as you go. And that was one of the things that when we got up to, I think that we peaked in that 550, I think was the most that I had. And, it gets to a point where like you're looking at certain things. It's like, dang, I got to eat a lot of food. Yeah. I got to eat a lot of food. I remember having, I had a rough day and I didn't eat a lot and I had so many carbs left over at the end of the day. And I didn't want to have like a giant bowl of cooked rice. I just didn't want to have it. It was like 7 o'clock at night and I needed something quick and easy to digest. And what we had in the house was Fruity Pebbles. And I'm like, all right, here we go. So I start measuring out the Fruity Pebbles, and there are people, neighbors of ours in the house, and they're watching me, and I don't have just like a normal bowl. I got like one of the
You got like
giant,
the salad bowl.
yeah, the giant, mixing bowls, the metals mixing bowls that you put like, baking, you're baking a cake and you got the batter in it. And I got that filled with Fruity Pebbles, and I make a shake, a protein shake with milk or skim milk, and I pour that all over, and I'm eating it. And they're like, "That's your dinner." I'm like, I got carbs. I got to hit my numbers. I got to get my knackers in.
No, like I will usually start recommending liquid calories. So like juices, fruit roll ups, like things like that. I'll usually start recommending that around like 300 carbs. So I remember I was like, hey, if you start having a point, if you just feel like you're forcing yourself to eat, get some apple juice, get some orange juice. Like that was, that's always like a proud moment for me as a coach is whenever I can, in good conscience, recommend, hey, let's drink some of your
Right.
calories.
Let's get some liquid in you.
Yeah.
Liquid
So
calories for sure.
So with your bodybuilding show as well, this was what was so cool to see was you already started off lean.
I
We
would say
put
I was
on
skinny fat. I was lean. I wasn't like heavy, right? I was probably starting around somewhere in the 180 range, 185. We had went down. I dipped into the 170, and then we moved everything back up. So I would say I was skinny fat for sure.
you could tell you worked out though. Like that's the
Yes.
difference. Those like your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your back, like you worked out. You worked out. And by the time we had finished building and it was, hey, we've got the show picked out, let's make our cut, you responded so well to the calorie deficit because we took time to take care of your metabolism. We took time to make sure, like, hey, everything is good with digestion. You've got a new system. You've learned it. You've learned carbs. Like, we were timing carbs around your workouts. I believe we were even using intra workout carbs because you were just, whenever you got 500 grams of carbs, you better be getting in 30, 40, 50 grams of carbs after like 45 minutes, an hour of training. So you're training hard. And all of this is post COVID, by the way. For those
Yeah, yeah.
listening, all of this is like post COVID. Cause I remember
My show
you were
was
in
in
India.
2021. The show was in
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah. I remember I wrote a training program for you and it had the rope handle attachment. And you were like, you come back and you're like, shit, I can't use that. It's against like New York's COVID rules, apparently. Like every other attachment is fine, but apparently not the rope. So
It was
I
the dumbest
remember
thing.
like that was such a that was absolutely absurd. But you respond really well. You got super lean. We carved you up. And for those who don't know, whenever you go into a bodybuilding show, you're coming in, you're very, very depleted, initially headed into what we call peak week. But whenever the muscles are depleted of glycogen, you don't have a whole lot of body fat on your frame at all. You actually want to now increase your carbohydrate intake fairly aggressively. So what we did was what's called a progressive linear load, where we gradually increase the carbs day by day by day, with the goal being your skin and your muscles kind of act almost like a fitted sheet on a bed. So like if I just took the top sheet and put it over my mattress and just kind of tucked it in, like, yeah, I can see the mattress is there. I can clearly see this is a bed. It just kind of looks like shit. But you put the fitted sheet on and you go, oh, that looks good. It's the same thing with your muscles. You want to just inflate them like a balloon so that everything now shows. Now you want to avoid what's called spilling over, which is whenever you go way too aggressive. So I can't remember how many carbs you had the day before your show, but what I do remember is after your show, it, the rule is always the same with pretty much everyone. Unless you've got like another show like a week or two later, it's, hey, good job. You kicked ass. You're sitting there holding a pose on stage for, you know, what ends up being anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of being on stage, and you're flexing everything as hard as you can, you have worked hard, right? My thing is, go eat whatever the hell you want afterwards. If you don't have another show in like a week or two, just go. And what did you have after your show? What was your post show meal?
So, to be totally honest, the day of show afterwards, I wasn't crazy. It just really wasn't crazy because like you said, I was exhausted.
And yep, and this was right after Noah was born. So you had a
Right.
baby.
I was just, yeah, so leading up to the show, Noah was born in May. The show was in August. Okay. So in between, the schedule was I would go to bed at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. I'd get up for the feeding at anywhere between 12 and 2 is when he used to wake up in the morning. I would be the one to get up, feed him, and then go back to bed, and then get up at 4 and then go to the gym. So that was what the schedule was. So all this time leading into it, I'm like on that type of schedule. Now we go to the show. I'm exhausted afterwards. I have to drive myself back home because my wife left to go. She took the kids. There was a vacation that they were planning for that I could not be a part of because I was doing the show. So she left. So I had to drive myself home. So I basically get home and I just pass out. Like I take a shower. All this stuff is just coming off you. All the tan and whatnot is coming off. And I lay down and I just pass out. Now I wake up and there was the meal that I had right after was I had made this broccoli, like, I don't know, broccoli pie or something that was that was still in the fridge. So it was late because I wound up taking like a 4-hour nap and I woke up and it was like 8:30 night. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just see I'm not going to go anywhere. So I pick up that broccoli thing and I ate the whole thing. So that was the first day. And I wake up the next day and I show you the photos and like, we probably could have pushed it a little bit harder the day of the show or the day before the show because I woke up that next day and I mean, I'm filled with veins. I mean, everything is just popping and whatnot. But again, we don't know that because it was my first show. It's always, you got to learn everything, right? So, but then the next day, that day, I should say, so the day after is when I really went to town. So I went.
This is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, oh yeah. I went crazy. So I had made myself pepperoni pizza, right? I made the dough because I remember doom scrolling, right? Because when you're in prep, all you see is food, right? YouTube, Instagram, it kind of knows that you just want to eat. So it's like, all right, we're going to just keep feeding you all the stuff that you can't have. So at the end, I went and I found all these recipes that I saved. I'm like, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this. And one of them was pizza dough. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to make myself these pizzas. So I made, I think 3 different pies, ate all 3 on the day, went to Walmart. I remember I've never gone to Walmart. I don't go shopping ever for food unless my wife sends me. I go to Walmart just to get junk. Okay. What do I get? I get candy bars. I want chocolate. So I go and I get like a regular Hershey's bar, Hershey's with almond, so the chocolate covered almond. I get a Mr. Good bar. Like I get all these different chocolate bars. And I mean, I don't know, like the minis. No. I get like the giant ones, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to have these over the next couple of days. It's going to be good. I wound up eating like 2/3 of whatever I bought that night. Like I was just ravenous at that point. I'm like, geez, I'm still like, the minute you have a little bit, it's like, boom, I got to keep on going.
It opens.
So I have, I think 5,000, I tracked everything. I think it was like 5,000, 6,000 calories in just all this stuff. Right. And I wake up the next day and I'm even more like pumped in those photos. So much so, like, even the striations in triceps are popping out. The veins in my stomach, in my actual like lower abdomen area are popping out. It was, I mean, this is what it was, right? It's basically going back to those keto. where the body is now becoming so efficient with taking in the calories because it's been depleted so much. And we were ramping up. Like we ramped up. I was down to maybe less than 100 grams of carbs a couple of days before we started ramping. We got up to about 300, 400 grams of carbs the day before the show. So it was, we were ramping up. So it wasn't like I was not having carbohydrates. It's just my body had become so efficient. And again, we don't know this, right? First show, you don't know. But we pushed as much as we thought we could to be cautious, to be conservative, and not to spill over. My placings were fine for my first show. I went 3, 3, and 5. So I went third place in novice, third place in a true novice, and then fifth place overall. So it wasn't a bad showing at all. And then 2 days after, I mean, massive amounts of food. And these photos, it's nice. Veins all over, all over.
Yeah, I remember that. And I'm like, okay, when the time eventually comes, because for those listening, you hear me and Tyler say it all the time, bodybuilding is a sport of extremes. It is an extreme end result, and you have to take extremes to get there. So we knew this was, all right, first show, do it, be done, move along, because also you've got a wife, you've got 2 kids, you've got a baby, newborn at home. Noah was only 3 months old. Like, we knew this was do one show and be done. And I'm going, man, I can't wait for the next one. Like, we know we can go aggressive a lot sooner. We know that we can push more. This is going to be absolutely incredible. We spend a year to just build, and we'll be able to just put some real good peak week strategy in place, get him absolutely having this look on the right day with the tan, forget about it. Now, unfortunately, and I've said it, my goal as a coach is I never create dependency. I don't want people to be like, oh, well, I'm working with Phil for the rest of my life. But I was so excited. I'm like, man, this is going to be awesome. We're going to take this time whenever he hits it again. But unfortunately, that was not able to happen at that time. And this is where now your focus shifts into finances. And we're already running close to an hour. We're going to do a part 2. We're going to record it that'll be next week's episode for those listening. But as you started to focus more on your finances, and I am also the first person to say, hey, if you're thinking about investing into your health, one, investing into yourself is the best decision that you can make. Most people are afraid to do it, but whenever you invest into yourself for whatever it is, if it's your health, your fitness, a skill, a hobby that you enjoy, that it gives you fulfillment, if you're going to invest into that, you don't want finances to be the barrier that's stopping you from being able to pursue it. So whenever people reach out and they're like, hey, kind of struggling, I don't really know if I can afford this, I would always instead of taking the gamble on can they afford health and fitness coaching, I would always rather see someone take the time to just set that money aside, get their financial house in order, get debt paid off or at least paid down, make sure that you have comfort, make sure that you have the ability to look at a budget and know whether or not you can afford it, because I don't want somebody to start working with a health and fitness coach. You see results and 3 months later, it's, oh crap, my home's AC went out, or the furnace went out, or the radiator on my car decided to go kaput. And now I really can't afford this. Because what happens is you've learned different plays of the playbook for how to win the game. Your health and fitness goal, let's say it's losing weight, that's playing the game. The game is losing weight. But whenever you have the system allows you to keep playing the game permanently. So I always want people to have the system in place. And we took time, we got your calories back up, we got you into a maintenance area, and that was when you kind of made the shift. Now, what parallels did you start to see between like your macros, setting a budget? Like, what parallels do you see as a financial coach now? What parallels do you see that cross over and play well for each other from fitness into finances?
It's almost virtually the same, right? So it's all about allocation of resources and where is it best served. That's basically what it comes down to. Budgeting gets a bad rap, and it really isn't. It really shouldn't, because people have they give it a negative connotation or negative mindset towards it because they find it to be limiting. Money is just a tool, right? Money is just simply a tool. The problem is control, the person's control, and how you view that tool. So you don't want a hammer to control you. Like, you don't want to pick up the hammer and have the hammer start hitting you. No, you take the hammer and you start striking something with the hammer. So if you go about it with that same mindset, money has a purpose. It's designed and created for a purpose, and the purpose is to be spent. That's the main purpose of money, is to be spent. Now, how and where it goes is on you, right? So you have to assign that tool to something, whether it's going into the savings account to grow interest, whether it's going into a whole life policy to grow interest, whether it's going into the bucket for groceries to buy groceries. You have to assign the money, not have it control you and say, oh, just spend me, spend me, spend me, right? So that's the mindset that you need to approach. And when you look at it for a budget and compare it to your calories and macros, it's essentially the same. I need X amount of money to go into the home repair. I need X amount of money to go into maintenance for cars, X amount of money that's going into mortgage, same as I have X amount of carbs for this day at 300. I have X amount of protein at 180. I have X amount of grams of fat at 50. So it's exactly paralleled the same. The mindset or concept really is very, very similar. It just comes down to the mindset and how you are best controlling and telling the tool what to do.
That's awesome, man. So quite the journey. Again, struggling with weight as a child to implementing a very successful stretch of doing keto, now finding more of a balanced approach. You've hit the stage, and now you're building something to help others with their finances. So if you're someone that Chris's story hit home and you want to get healthy, but you feel like the money just, isn't there right now, don't miss the next episode. We're diving into how Chris helps people get control of their money so that their finances support their health instead of stop it. So listen for episode 2 next week. And now it's time for my personal favorite. And the real reason why we even do these podcasts is so I can ask a would you rather question. Would you rather be a Jedi with full control of the Force, but you never get a lightsaber, or you're a Super Saiyan with all the power and the recovery abilities, just like Goku and Vegeta, but you can never go past base form. So you can never actually go Super Saiyan. So you're limited to Kaioken, basically.
Oh, it's terrible. That's terrible. So I have all the benefits of Super Saiyan strength and recovery, but without the actual transformation?
Correct. You can't have the glowing blonde hair, eyes turn blue.
And then the Jedi.
Kaioken, that was season 1. It was like, oh my God, he went Kaioken times 3.
Yeah, but then you have God mode and in Ultra Instinct. I mean, come on, he's like Ultra Instinct. He's almost like a zombie just walking through, and it's like, and then to have all the Jedi power and knowledge without ever getting a lightsaber.
Right.
I mean, even Darth Sidious had a moment or two in which, at least in the trilogies, or at least in the whole thing, had a moment where he's. I mean, I guess having Force lightning could be cool. I don't necessarily have to have a lightsaber there, and still choke people out if I wanted to, and move stuff with my mind and all that stuff. I mean, that is, to me, that might be more tantalizing than being super strong, but not getting like the whole like moment to power up in front of people and just totally transforming.
Just
I mean,
scream
come
for
on,
like 30 minutes.
those transformations in DBZ and like beyond, and even the Tournament of Power, like those transformations take at least an episode sometimes. I mean, you got a full 30 minutes and where you're like, huge. Why wouldn't I want to go Jedi and never touch a lightsaber? Unfortunately,
That is solid walking yourself through it. That is without
these are important questions. That's a tough one, my friend. Jeez, that was tough. I needed deliberation on that one for sure. I needed to talk it out.
you're gonna be thinking over your answer like, well, wait a minute, hang on, what about this? What about that? Like you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
mean
thinking
the
about
whole
this for the next
when,
couple
even
of
when
days.
you said the recovery thing of all Vegeta, I'm like, is that with or without a sensu bean? Like, do I get the sensu bean in there? Like, am
I
I
mean,
not allowed?
if Krillin pops up with like, hey, here's a sensu bean, sure you can have it. Like it's not banned. It's not a PED. Like it's just a bean.
Right. So I mean, but they do get to eat a lot of food. I mean, massive amounts of food. That could be that that was definitely throwing something. Thinking about. Now I'm staying. I'm staying being a Jedi without having to touch a lightsaber. Um, yeah, I would rather that than not go through a transformation because yeah, they're just cool. Like I mean, like that's the whole reason why. That's the whole reason why.
Fair enough. I'm gonna go on the opposite side
Okay.
because of the reason you just brought up. I can eat whatever the hell I want, pretty much, and I recover super quick. Like I could basically just eat and lift, eat and lift, eat and lift,
Yeah.
eat and lift, and just sleep like a king. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. It's
that
tough. It's
sounds.
tough. It really is.
I mean, maybe it's just my kids are still young. That sounds amazing to be able to just eat, lift, sleep. I don't get that last one a whole lot. So yeah, I
There's
think
nothing to say I can't do that as a Jedi either. I mean, it's not to say I can't do that. Although I've never seen, you never really saw a jacked
you don't see a
Jedi.
jacked Jedi. That's
Yeah,
my thing. You don't see like a big powerhouse Jedi, like maybe the this is getting super into the weeds, and I know this is where people tune out, but the Wookiee Jedi is probably like the physically strongest, like who could lift the most.
yeah, but he's a Wookiee.
But he's a Wookiee, exactly. That's
Yeah,
not, that's like saying a gorilla can bench press more than a man. Like,
right,
yeah,
exactly. Because
obviously
it's a gorilla,
it's a gorilla.
100%.
It's a Wookiee. Let the Wookiee win. You'll
Let the
rip their
Wookiee win,
limbs off.
right?
So, well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us, brother. Where can people find you on the internet? We'll just say that. Give us the social media and give us the handle.
Yeah, right now. So you can visit our website, divinestewardship.com. I'm also right now just starting up the Divine Stewardship on Instagram, just transitioning into that right now. But yeah, you can definitely look us up at divinestewardship.com for now.
Awesome. And is there an email address where people can reach out to you yet, or still in the works?
If you just go to the website, there's the links at the website. You can connect with us, and there's the email at the bottom, and then on the connect with us page.
Perfect. Well, thank you all very much for listening. Make sure to give that subscribe button a big old wet kiss on the lips, because I don't believe in being abusive to the subscribe button. And if you found this to be interesting, please, it really helps us out with the algorithm. Leave a review, subscribe, share. Thank you for joining as always, and we will catch you next week with part dose. See ya.